Okay, so what you need to know in recording is that don't bump the microphones. I'm silly. So in recording, the microphone doesn't lie. So if it's placed poorly, or what you're picking up isn't being presented well, it's the air conditioner is running and it's just as loud as what you're trying to record. The traffic noise outside is louder than your speaking voice. People are not going to pay attention to it. They're going to say, I can't handle this. They'll turn it off. Whereas natural sounds like rain or thunder, people don't really object to that because it's considered ambience, right? Okay, but traffic noise and air conditioner noise and burned out speakers. People try to record in the audience. They have everyone has recorders now. Mm-hmm. Video, everybody, everything's recorded. But if they're in the audience and the speakers sound trashy, the recording will be trashy. That's why, to be professional, note, very important, if you want to record something with a camcorder, let's consider that a camcorder. The audio on the camcorder can't possibly be as good as the microphone in front of the people talking or playing. So consider that to be professional, that you have a video recording device and an audio recording device that you master later. So you're able to mix and match them, because the audio over there isn't going to be very good.
And so that's why they have like the boom mics and stuff?
Right. What would be great is for us to have these interview mics like DJs use right in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
so that we don't hear the room. That's a little overkill for just an interview, and and I do that sometimes. See, I have the mic cables here. I do that, but this is fine. I take this guy with me with that, and record people playing live in clubs and stuff, and it sounds great. I mean, you capture the live performance, and you get a good picture because you're across the room, but the audio is being recorded right in front of them. I've criticized people, and I'll do it. Don't post camcorder videos in your YouTube channel. It's unprofessional. And what people will do, it may be 10 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, with you, in your case. People will go back, since everything is kept now, they'll judge you by what you did back then, not what you're doing now. Look what he did, this is terrible, He dropped his pants, he recorded this terrible video. How could we possibly buy his this or that? Because he did this. People will judge you by that. And I know people here in town, I've told this to them and said, but I have hundreds of camcorder videos that I've posted in my YouTube channel. And I'll apologize for them. I'm sorry you did that. Because I won't watch them. It makes me sick. Because I have taste.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm just like everybody else. I'm not going to spend my time watching camcorder videos. No. But if I'd had a little point and shoot and a good audio recorder, and I engineered them together, mastered them,
mm-hmm.
I don't have to process it or anything. I just have to, cut it up and mash the audio and stuff and produce it. Watch that, because it looks good and it sounds good. That's all that matters. So People will judge you by how good it sounds more than how good it looks. Very true. And, you know, it used to be just a few years ago, video was very difficult. You had clunky camcorders. They were these giant boxy things, you know, and the light was bad, you know, the dynamic range. And that little point and shoot there, which the technology in that's 4 or 5 years old, it's way better than anything 10 years ago. Way better. Almost anything. Even expensive video. Those big things you see in the studio with the giant lenses on them.
Mm-hmm.
That little thing is better than most of those. Way back in the 90s. Way back in the 90s. I was making videos in the early 80s. And, you know, to VHS tape, this giant... I had the belly pack with the camcorder in it, this big box. You know, I was on the beach doing that because, you know, the sports stuff, people doing surfing and whatever is just really super cool. And, you know, there were other people, there was the ESPN and all that stuff. But see, ESPN didn't have access to the water. I could walk right into the water and do it. They wouldn't do that, you see. So now, you know, I can do the GoPro, waterproof camera. I can record people, follow them right into the water, go down into the water with it. You know, I can wear it on my helmet and jump off a cliff with it. You know, that kind of stuff. I think the astronauts have GoPros. People on the space station. So, and the new ones are 4K. Now, do you understand that? That's another question. What's meant by 2K and 4K video? Do you know what that means? 2K?
Honestly, I don't know.
4K. Okay. When people say HD video, that's what they mean, 2K. Because it's 1,900 some odd lines, right?
Yeah.
That's 2K. Okay. Now the new little GoPros, have you seen them? It's just a little like wedge of cheese with a lens on it. They record in 4K. 4,000 lines. That's 4,000 lines this way. There are 4,000 lines like this, right? You can yawn. It's okay.
No, I'm trying not to.
I don't care.
I don't care. It's not because I'm tired.
It's boring.
No. I mean, I'm having my mind blown right now.
Oh, that's okay. You can blow your mind. That's okay. 4K. We're getting cameras now that we can buy at Best Buy for a few $100 that are 4K, and they have excellent quality, good dynamic range, very high frame rates. That's another thing. Okay. You understand frame rates on video? Do you know what that means?
I understand, like, size.
A frame is one image.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, typically, the old, you remember analog television?
Yes.
It was interlaced. They did that to reduce bandwidth, the amount of space they needed in the spectrum to transmit the signal. So they standardized it, which they call NTSC, National Television Standards Committee, or something like that. It's an acronym of something with national and television in it. What they did was to give it 30 frames per second, they interlaced it, and they would transmit the odd lines and then the even lines. So they could get away with 15 frames per second, but because it was interlaced, it appeared to be 30 frames per second. So that's the way they got the bandwidth down. So they could have the bandwidth by doing that. So that's why they call it today 1080p, and you also see 1080i up there because some stuff is still recorded interlaced. P means not persistent. Okay, my brain is not working. 1080p. I don't remember. Progressive. Progressive frames. Okay, so the entire image is transmitted. Then the next image is the entire image is transmitted. That's what broadcast television does. Now, what over the air, what they do is they compress the video, and compression has only been possible because of computers. We're able to put computers on a chip, and that chip is fast enough to process the image coming off the sensor in the camera and check adjacent frames, adjacent pixels. It grabs the pixels in a matrix and checks to see how different the pixels are adjacent to each other. And if they're the same, it only transmits the ones that are the same together. It doesn't transmit all of them. So if they're all different, in other words, very high resolution, like in some movies you see snow falling or rain or some weird snowy effect where there's all this detail, real fine detail, that really blows up the bandwidth needed. So some TVs, some DVD players, some Blu-ray players have difficulty reproducing that, and some computers can't reproduce it. It's just too much work to do. So 1080p is what we have now, and what the broadcasters do is they compress the video, and the decoder in your TV that receives the 1080p, there's enough information at any one time to fill in lost frames. So you see it, sometimes it freezes for a second and then it catches up. Mm-hmm. It's called MPEG. MPEG is the format that allows for checking reducing the bandwidth that needs to be transmitted. Mm-hmm. So what happens with video today is that the bandwidth is flying all over the place. It's dynamic. So if they're just transmitting a picture that doesn't move, the bandwidth goes way down because the MPEG remembers everything and doesn't transmit anything. So a static picture, MPEG, is just transmitted once, and then the bandwidth goes almost to zero. Interesting, huh? Okay, so the question, why are we here? You want to record something. What? What do you have in mind?
Is this a trick question or
No.
What
What do you want to record?
Music.
Instruments are in it. I assume you're not going to be singing.
No, it's not a cappella. I mean, I don't think I can do that just yet, but just your kind of guitar, bass, drums, melody, lead guitar, low vocals. Okay.
Have you recorded some of this already?
We have, but it just doesn't
gel.
Yeah, it's like when you listen to it, you're just like, something is not right. Something needs to be fixed.
Okay. Do you know what that might be? What's not right?
Well, one of the problems is, as far as drums go, we don't have
enough mics.
No, nearly enough mics.
That's a big problem.
One SM57.
Believe me, I feel your pain. In the studio, when bands want to come and record, the drummer is always the guy who's causing the most problems. Not him personally. All you drummers out there, nothing personal. Everybody wants to play on their instruments. Mm-hmm. They want to play on their guitar. They want to play on their drums. They want to play on their piano. But in a studio, that's not always possible, especially if you want to save money. Money is important. Money is what controls what's going on. Is what defines the level of activity in the recording. Unfortunately, you're trying to produce a product. So the more time that everyone has to spend making the recording and then mastering it, the more it's going to cost. Some studios whose only job is to make money will make you pay before you even arrive. And I don't do that, and we won't talk about that, but I don't do that. Okay. So the drummer, because of the complexity, basically drums are just striking surfaces. The guy's hitting stuff, mm-hmm. right? He's banging on things, and the things that he's banging on make different noises for different reasons. So what you want to be able to do is isolate them, but have everybody see. So let's step up to the stage. So, if I turn the camera around, excuse me for turning the camera, okay, we notice that there are many different things to strike. Cymbals, drums, they all have surfaces that the guy hits with sticks or brushes or whatever, mallets. Mm-hmm. They make different noises, but there are many of them. Whereas with the guitar, everything's compacted. With the piano, it's a linear. You're just striking keys. Keyboards are less portable than drums, but they're difficult. Guitars are very portable. That's why they're so popular. So what you do in the studio is you set up drums and you mic them. I took the mics off yesterday for some guitarists that were here. But these mics mount on the drums. So a set like this requires 7 microphones. And if you want to be able to record them, record the drums, and then mix it so that it sounds balanced, you have to record each microphone on its own track. That's difficult. Oftentimes, most of the time, the drummer has the most tracks, but he's easiest to master. So, on the front end, the recording is more difficult for the drums, but on the back end, with mastering, it's easier. Less time mastering the drums than the guitarist or the vocalist, the keyboardist. By the way, the vocals are the hardest. Our brains are designed to know what we're hearing when people are talking or singing. So we are most discriminating for the voice. The voice takes the most time. And it's the most important.
When I listen to things that we've recorded, I listen to my vocals and just I don't like it.
Well, of course not. Especially because you're judging yourself. Because you're the most critical person for what you do. And it's absolutely true. It's very easy to be disappointed with what you're recording because you're your own worst enemy. It's very true. And everybody's that way, so it's nothing personal. Okay, so now the drums are in sort of a little bit of a disarray. I've been moving stuff around, but it's basically just the bass drum, snare, hi-hat, two standing toms, one floor tom, and two cymbals. There are microphones. I don't know if the camera can see them. There's a microphone hanging up here. There's one. There's the other one over here. Those are pencil mics. They're condensers, and you can see how I have them on a bar up there, so I can move them around very easily. So I want to move the drums some more. Since these weren't here a week ago, I built these last week. So I'm going to move the drums back a little more, and because everything's on either attached to the drums or hanging from above, that's easy. The hard part is moving the drums. It used to be the microphones. It's so hard, and in the 80s and 90s, companies made the mistake of making microphones that went inside the drums. That's a mistake. People almost don't do that anymore. Anyway, and of course then there was the fad of making electronic drums. Well, guess what? Electronic drums sound like electronic drums. So there is nothing. I took a recording. This is what I did last month. I took a recording that someone else made. Let's go back to the tablet. Back to the table. I took a recording that someone else made in another studio, and they had Pro Tools and a Mac Pro. They recorded, they had electronic, what they call drum machine, and then they had another track with the guy playing the drums, and all this stuff. Bass guitar tracks, pads, synthesizers, this cheesy string sounds. It's really terrible. 7 or 8 vocal parts, just over, harmonies and all this stuff. And they tried to mix it down, and it was horrible. Oh, and then they spent so much time. They must have been in the studio for weeks, and the master was terrible. It was just horrible, and that's why they brought him to me, because they know that I know how to make it sound better. I'm not saying that I'm, Alan Parsons or anything, but I can make it sound better. So what I did was I threw out, it's amazing. Less is more. It's amazing what you can throw out and still have a song. So the first thing to do is to work on the vocals. The software available today, it's just a tool, but what it does is it allows you to adjust, what I call correct or scrub. I'll use adjust, correct, and scrub. They all mean the same. So I call it scrubbing. You're cleaning things. You're scrubbing it. And what I did was I used that software to create another vocal part, so that what the lady did is she didn't include a tenor part. Mm-hmm. So I took her voice, made another track, and shifted it an octave down, so there was a tenor track. It sounds terrible when you listen to it by itself, but when it's mixed together with everything she's doing, it added that bottom octave that she really needed, that was missing. It sounded really, like the girl singing, She needed that tenor sound in there. I could have sung it myself, but it's her song. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And believe me, what I've done in the past, and it's okay to do this, if somebody gives you recordings and you just can't correct something in there, if it's mixed properly, it's possible to sing along with what they're doing and cut little pieces out of what you did and and lay it over what they did so it smoothly mixes in with what they're doing, they won't even know it. So that's a form of correction, is using your own voice to correct someone else's voice. That's okay. Just don't tell them. Some people might not like that. So anyway, it's all ego, you know. Okay, so again, let's go back to what you were talking about, what you have that you weren't happy with it. You recorded these tracks. You have the files of the tracks, I assume.
Not with me today, but
okay, but you have them.
Yes.
They're in your possession of the original recordings, not mastered or corrected. The raw recordings.
just the audio file.
Yeah, the tracks,
Mm-hmm.
track files,
Mm-hmm.
wave files. I assume they're wave or AIFFs or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. The great thing is that many things can be fixed or redone. And the way we know that is because a few years ago, Paul McCartney worked with different people at Apple Records, and they re-recorded Let It Be. Mm-hmm. The last album that the Beatles recorded in, what was it, 1970? Re-recorded it, and it's just fantastic. They had the tracks of John Lennon singing, and Harrison was still alive. He actually played new guitar tracks over it. So the songs have the same beat. It's the same stuff. They sound exactly like they were before, but way better because they're using modern digital techniques. So they're able to use Lennon's voice and go over everything, and it's way better. I couldn't believe it. It was so good. So it's possible to take old stuff that you've recorded. I mean, I have stuff that I recorded onto cassettes in 1977, and I've been working on them when I have spare time. It's very tedious, it's very difficult, but what I was doing was very creative and original, with another guitarist. And it's going to be worth my while because I'll be able to create my own original music from that. Because we were playing it to an audience, and I was in my late 20s, and I was, pretty good. I thought. I just wish I had more recordings of what I was doing. It just so happens I had a recorder at the time. Okay, the next thing is that when you're recording, the act of recording means that you're trying to capture what you're doing. You're recording video, audio, whatever it is. You're using a device to capture what you're doing. You don't want the room or the instrument, deficiencies in the instrument, or where the instrument's placed, or where the microphone's placed, or something that's in between the signal coming from whatever is generating the music to the amplifier or the recorder. You don't want it adulterated. Now, that's not to say, like in here, you notice the room isn't completely dead, but it's pretty good. But totally dead is wrong. It becomes sterile then. You want a little bit of the room in the recording. What you don't want is phasing and flanging and reverb and this and that. Reverb is great to feed back to the guy singing so he can hear his voice better, because it's good to have vocals pretty isolated, especially from the other noises in the room, other instruments. So you add a little reverb to his monitor mix so he can hear his voice better. That's why people think they sound so good in the shower, because the shower's talking back to you. Anyway.